They called me weak, poor, and worthless. They lied, betrayed, and left me broken. But I didn't stay down. I fought, I rose, and I built a life so powerful that those who abandoned me could only watch in regret. This is my journey from nothing to everything. I was born into a life where dreams felt like luxuries. My earliest memories are not of toys, laughter, or comfort, but of scarcity. The leaking roof during monsoon rains, the torn school books I shared with neighbors, the faint smell of kerosene from the single lamp that lit our nights. That was my childhood. My father worked endless hours doing labor, but no matter how much he struggled, it was never enough. My mother would often hide her tears behind a forced smile, cutting down her own meals so that I could eat an extra chapati. As a child, I didn't understand sacrifice. I only knew hunger and the shame of being the poorest one in the classroom. There were days when I wished I could disappear. When other children proudly opened their tiffin boxes, filled with sandwiches, fruit, and sweets, I pretended not to be hungry. I kept my empty box shut, telling everyone I had already eaten. Inside, my stomach growled louder than their laughter. But even in those darkest corners of poverty, a strange fire burned inside me. I told myself, this won't be my life forever. One day, I'll rise. The real turning point came when I was about 12. I overheard my parents whispering one night. My father's voice was heavy with defeat. He said, maybe we should stop sending him to school. We can't afford the fees anymore. Let him work. At least we'll have one less mouth to feed. That sentence broke something inside me. I cried silently on my mat, my small fists clenched. I wasn't angry at my parents. They loved me in their own way. I was angry at the world, angry at fate, angry at how poverty strips away not just food and clothes, but dignity, opportunities, and even love. The next morning, I made a promise to myself. I swore that I would not let my life end in the same poverty I was born into. But poverty is a cruel teacher. It tests you before it teaches you. As I grew older, I began taking small jobs after school, carrying bags, washing dishes, delivering newspapers. My classmates mocked me, saying, he'll never be more than a servant. I smiled at them, but deep down, each insult became fuel. Every cruel laugh was a spark that kept my fire alive. One day while I was serving tea at a local stall, a man in a crisp suit stopped by. His shoes shined, his watch glittered. He looked like someone from another world. I remember staring at him, thinking, how can one person look so powerful while I feel so invisible? That day, I realized something important. Money changes everything. Money decides whether people look at you with respect or with pity. And then there was love. Yes, even in those struggles, my heart found someone. Her name was Annika. She was my classmate, and unlike the others, she never mocked me. She spoke to me like I mattered. Sometimes she would secretly share her lunch with me, pretending she wasn't hungry. To me, those small gestures felt like the richest gifts in the world. I fell for her, not because she was kind, but because she saw me when no one else did. I told myself, one day when I make it big, I'll give her everything she deserves. But life, it doesn't always honor promises of the heart. By the time I turned 18, responsibilities pressed harder. My father's health was failing, debts were piling up, and creditors came knocking at our door. I remember one night when my father coughed blood, my mother sat by his side, whispering prayers through tears. We didn't even have enough money for proper treatment. It was in that darkness that my ambition hardened. I wasn't going to just survive. I was going to fight, claw, and rise out of this pit. But I didn't know then that the same love I held onto, the same dreams I built my life around, would one day betray me in ways I couldn't imagine. As I look back now, I see that poverty was both my curse and my gift. It broke me, yes, but it also shaped me into someone who could never be defeated. Love has a strange way of entering your life. It doesn't knock, it doesn't ask, it just takes its place in your heart, whether you're ready or not. For me, love came in the form of Annika. She wasn't just a girl in my class, she was the only light in those years of shadows. While others mocked me for my worn-out clothes and empty pockets, Annika noticed me, truly noticed me. I still remember the first time she spoke my name, not with mockery, but with warmth. Do you always sit alone? She asked one afternoon, her voice gentle, as if she already knew my answer. I looked down, embarrassed. I'm used to it, I mumbled. She smiled. Well, I'm not. So from today, you're sitting with me. That simple moment, it changed everything. Days turned into weeks, and before I realized it, Annika became the center of my little world. She would share her lunch with me, even though I knew she was hungry herself. She'd slip me extra pens and notebooks when she saw my old ones falling apart. And most importantly, she gave me something no money could buy, dignity. One rainy evening, as we stood under a broken umbrella, she whispered, "You'll do great things one day. I know it." Her words became my secret fuel. Whenever life tried to break me, I remembered her voice, steady and sure, like an anchor in a storm. Our friendship blossomed into something deeper. We weren't just two classmates anymore. We were each other's escape. I remember late evenings, walking her home through narrow lanes lit only by dim street lamps. The world outside was loud and cruel, but with her, silence felt beautiful. One night, as we sat on the rooftop of her house watching the stars, I found the courage to speak my heart. "Annika," I said quietly, "I don't have much to offer right now, and not money, not comfort. But one day, I promise I'll give you a life where you'll never have to worry about anything." She turned to me, her eyes shining in the moonlight. "I don't care about money," she said. "I care about you. As long as we're together, that's enough for me." Those words etched themselves into my soul. In that moment, I believed love could conquer poverty. I believed her heart would never waver. But life always tests love. As our bond grew stronger, whispers began around us. People didn't like what they saw. A poor boy daring to dream of a girl like Annika, it was enough to spark envy, to plant seeds of deceit. Some classmates teased her, asking why she wasted her time with a beggar. Some even went further, whispering lies into her ears. Telling her I was using her kindness. that I would never rise above my poverty. I ignored them. I thought, our love is stronger than their jealousy. But deep down, a quiet fear gnawed at me. Poverty doesn't just empty your stomach. It tests the loyalty of those around you. One evening, as we walked by the riverside, she held my hand tightly. They talk too much, she sighed. They don't understand you like I do. I squeezed her hand. Let them talk. One day, I'll prove every single one of them wrong. She smiled then, but her eyes carried a shadow I couldn't understand at the time. Looking back now, I see it clearly. Love, as pure as it felt, was already under attack. Jealousy, envy, and doubt had begun weaving their silent threads between us. But back then, I was too blinded by love to notice. I thought we were unshakable. I thought nothing could come between us. And so, with every beat of my heart, I built my dreams around Annika. She wasn't just my love. She was my reason to keep fighting, my reason to keep believing. I didn't know then that the same love that lifted me up would one day become the very thing that shattered me into pieces. They say betrayal doesn't come from enemies. It comes from those you love most. I didn't truly understand that saying until I lived it. At first, it was subtle. Annika began to change. The girl who once waited for me after class now seemed to always be in a hurry. The messages that once overflowed with warmth became shorter, colder. When I held her hand, it didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like something slipping away. I tried to ignore it. I told myself, she's just busy. She still loves me. But deep inside, I felt it. The distance growing, the silence between us screaming louder than words. One evening, I went to meet her outside the coaching center like I always did. She wasn't there. I waited 10 minutes, 20, an hour. Finally, I saw her, walking out with another boy. Their laughter echoed in the night, a sound that tore through me like a blade. I didn't confront her right away. I just stood there, hidden in the shadows, watching. And in that moment, my world began to collapse. When I finally asked her about it, she brushed it off. He's just a friend, she said, her tone sharp, her eyes avoiding mine. But I wasn't a fool. I had seen the way she looked at him. I had once been the reason for that smile. Now someone else was. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. My chest felt heavy, like a weight pressing down on me. I kept asking myself why. Was my love not enough? Did my poverty steal her away from me? But love wasn't the only place betrayal came knocking. My closest friends, the ones who laughed with me, the ones who promised they'd always have my back, they too began showing their true colors. Some of them whispered behind my back, mocking me for dreaming too big, calling me foolish for believing that love could survive without money. And the worst part? A friend I trusted most was the very one feeding rumors to Annika, telling her I was chasing unrealistic dreams, that I would never be able to give her a secure life. He poisoned her heart with doubts I never stood a chance against. It was as if life had decided to test me all at once. Love, trust, loyalty, everything crumbling in my hands. The day the truth finally broke me, I still remember every second. I went to surprise Annika with a small gift, something I had saved up for weeks to buy. It wasn't much, just a simple chain with her initials carved on it. To me, it was priceless. To her, it meant nothing. When I reached her street, I froze. There she was, standing close to the same boy, her laughter soft, her eyes glowing in a way I hadn't seen in months. He leaned in, whispered something, and she didn't pull away. I felt my legs weaken, my throat dried, my heart shattered. The gift slipped from my hand, hitting the ground with a dull thud. That sound, it was like the final nail in the coffin of my dreams. I didn't confront her that night. I couldn't. I walked away, tears burning my eyes, my fist clenched until my nails cut into my skin. I wanted to scream, to break something, to tear apart the unfairness of it all. Instead, I collapsed on my bed, staring at the ceiling like a lifeless shell. My mother knocked softly, asking if I was okay. I said nothing. How could I tell her that the only thing keeping me afloat had abandoned me? That night, I broke down completely. I cried, not just for the love I lost, but for the betrayal, for the friends who weren't friends, for the dreams slipping through my fingers. I questioned everything. Why me? What did I do wrong? Why does life punish the ones who give their hearts so purely? But no answer came, only silence. Only pain. Looking back now, I realize that betrayal is the cruelest kind of poverty. It doesn't just leave you hungry or broken. It empties your soul, makes you doubt your own worth. Annika's betrayal crushed me, yes. My friend's deceit destroyed my trust. But somewhere, buried beneath all that pain, a new seed was planted. A seed of fire. A seed of revenge. A seed of determination that one day, I would rise so high, they would choke on their own regrets. I am broken, questioning destiny, drowning in heartbreak. What I didn't know then was that this pain would soon become the very fuel I needed to climb out of the ashes. Lies and deceit stripped me of money, trust, and stability. Rock bottom moment, feeling completely abandoned. The night I cried like a child, I vowed never to be weak again. It started with money. The little I had saved, through odd jobs, sleepless nights, and endless sacrifices, was taken from me in the most painful way. A so-called friend convinced me to invest in a small business deal, swearing it would double my money in a month. He looked me in the eyes, promised me I could trust him, and I did, because at that time I still believed in people. But when the time came, he vanished. His phone switched off, his house locked, his family pretending not to know where he was. In one stroke, I lost everything I had built from years of struggle. Then came the trust. I thought at least my family would stand by me in this storm. But poverty is cruel. It doesn't just break the body, it breaks relationships. Relatives whispered that I was a failure, that I was irresponsible, that I was wasting my life chasing impossible dreams. Even my own brother, someone I loved like my own shadow, turned his back on me. He mocked me, saying, "You'll never be more than a servant. Stop dreaming and face the truth." Do you know what it feels like when even your own blood poisons your wounds instead of healing them? It feels like drowning, with no one reaching out a hand. And then, the final blow. Annika. I still remember the night clearly. I had gone to meet her, hoping, desperately, that maybe love would still hold me together while everything else fell apart. I wanted to believe that she was different, but instead she looked at me with eyes I didn't recognize anymore. Cold, distant, almost pitying. "You can't give me the life I need," she said softly. "I can't keep living on promises, waiting for a future that may never come." Her words sliced through me. I tried to argue, tried to remind her of the nights under the stars, of the promises we made, of the way she once swore money didn't matter. But she just shook her head, and then she walked away. Not once did she turn back. That night, I sat alone in the dark corner of my small room. No money, no love, no friends, not even the comfort of family. It was as if the universe had stripped me naked and thrown me into the fire just to see if I would burn or rise. I tried to stay strong, but I couldn't. I cried like a child. My chest heaved with sobs I couldn't control. My fists pounded the floor until they bled. Every promise I had made to myself felt shattered. For the first time in my life, I felt completely abandoned. And yet, in that very moment of weakness, something powerful was born. As I lay there, broken and defeated, I whispered to myself, never again. Never again will I let myself be this weak. Never again will I give anyone the power to destroy me. That night, in my tears, in my pain, I made a vow. One day I will rise. One day I will make them all regret turning their backs on me. One day they will see my name, my success, my power, and they will choke on their betrayal. A turning point, deciding to fight back. Silently, I begin to learn, study, and work harder than ever. First glimpses of opportunities knocking. Early victories taste sweeter because they're born from pain. Rock bottom changes you. It either breaks you forever, or it awakens something inside you that nothing can ever kill again. For me, it was the second. After that night, the night I cried like a child and swore I would never be weak again, I woke up with a new fire in my chest. I realized something important. Nobody was coming to save me. Not friends, not family, not love. If I wanted to rise, I would have to carve my path with my own blood and sweat. So I began my fight, silently. No grand announcements, no cries for sympathy, just quiet, relentless work. I started studying every book I could get my hands on about business, money, human behavior, success stories of those who went from nothing to everything. At night, while the world slept, I kept my lamp burning. I taught myself skills people said were too difficult for someone like me. Every morning, I pushed my body and mind further, taking small jobs to survive, using every coin wisely, and learning from every mistake. And for the first time in my life, I felt a strange kind of power. Not the power of wealth, not yet, but the power of discipline. The world still mocked me. They still called me a fool, laughed at my dreams, whispered that I was wasting my time. But this time, I didn't listen. I let their laughter pass through me, like wind against stone. I remembered every betrayal, every lie, every insult, and I turned them into fuel. If heartbreak had shattered me, then ambition became the glue that pieced me back together. And slowly, opportunities began to knock. The first was small. I used the little knowledge I gained to help a local shopkeeper reorganize his accounts. He was struggling, drowning in debt. I stayed up nights, balancing his books, finding mistakes he didn't even notice. When he realized I had saved him from disaster, he looked at me with respect, real respect, the kind I had never seen before. And he paid me, not much, but enough to feel like my first victory. It wasn't about the money. It was about proving to myself that I wasn't useless, that I had value. From there, I looked for more chances. I offered my help wherever I could, teaching kids for a small fee, assisting in shops, doing paperwork for businesses too busy to manage on their own. Each small victory tasted sweeter because it was born from pain. Every coin I earned, I remembered the night I had nothing. Every thank you I received, I remembered the times I was treated as worthless. And slowly, I began to rise. I still remember the first time I bought something for myself. Not secondhand, not borrowed, not given with pity. Something I paid for with my own money. It was a simple wristwatch. Cheap to others, priceless to me. I wore it every day, not to show time, but to remind myself, this is only the beginning. But here's the thing about awakenings. Once you taste progress, once you feel your own strength, you can never go back to who you were. I no longer begged for love. I no longer waited for loyalty. I no longer cared for the approval of those who betrayed me. I only cared about one thing, becoming the man they never believed I could be. And slowly, the world began to notice. They thought I was finished. They thought I would stay broken, forgotten, lost. But betrayal doesn't just destroy a man, it remakes him. And now, I was becoming someone else. Someone stronger, sharper, untouchable. At first it was small. I walked past the same streets where people once mocked me, only now they looked at me differently. My clothes were no longer torn. My shoulders no longer bent. My eyes carried fire. I wasn't rich yet, but I was rising, and they could feel it. The first confrontation came from an old friend, the very one who had stolen my savings with that fake business deal. One evening, I found him at the marketplace. He was the same as before, scheming, desperate, but this time I wasn't the same. He looked at me, surprised, almost guilty. "Hey, brother, long time. How are you?" I smiled. Not with anger, not with hate, just calm, quiet power. "Better than you think," I said. The way his face stiffened, that was enough. I didn't need to shout. I didn't need to expose him. My success was already haunting him. And then there was Annika, the girl who had once promised me forever, the same one who walked away when I had nothing. I saw her again months later. She was with him, the boy she chose, instead of me. They looked happy, at least on the surface. But when her eyes met mine, I saw something flicker. Guilt, regret, and maybe longing. She tried to smile, tried to act like nothing had happened. "How are you?" she asked softly. I wanted to say 1,000 things. I wanted to remind her of the promises she broke, the nights we dreamed together, the way she left me when I needed her most. But instead, I just said, "I'm doing well, better than ever," and I walked away. That moment, it was sweeter than any revenge. Because nothing hurts more than watching the person you abandoned rise higher without you. But silent revenge isn't just about them noticing. It's about me enjoying every second of it. I watched my old classmates, the ones who laughed at my hunger, now come asking me for favors. I heard my relatives, who once called me a burden, bragging to others about being related to me. And my brother, who mocked me, who said I'd never be more than a servant? Now he avoided my eyes. He couldn't stand the weight of his own words, echoing back at him like a curse. Sometimes at night I would lie awake replaying their faces, the shock, the envy, the regret. And inside I whispered to myself, this is my revenge. Not anger, not violence, but success. The sweet pain of watching them realize what they lost, what they destroyed, and what they could never have again. That was my justice. Yet in all this silent revenge, I also discovered something unexpected. The higher I climbed, the less I cared about them. Their betrayals, once sharp as knives, now felt like old scars. Because the truth is, success doesn't just silence your enemies, it heals you. I was no longer the boy they pitied. I was the man they envied. Every coin I earned was not just money. It was proof. Proof that pain had shaped me. Proof that betrayal had forged me. Step by step, the darkness of my past began to fade. The debts I once drowned in were paid. The sleepless nights I once suffered were over. And the hunger in my stomach was replaced by hunger in my soul. Hunger to build, to rise, to conquer. At first it was small. One opportunity here, another there. A business idea that others laughed at, I turned into gold. A job that nobody wanted, I took and mastered. And soon, the doors that were once slammed in my face began to open. Not because of pity, not because of charity, but because my name had started to mean something. They had once whispered about me with mockery. Now they spoke my name with curiosity. And soon, with respect. People who once ignored my calls now waited in line to meet me. Hands that once pushed me away now reached out to shake mine. And in the silence of my success, I smiled. Because nothing is louder than the sound of your enemies forced to applaud you. I built slowly, brick by brick. And with every victory, my empire grew. Not just an empire of money, but an empire of strength, an empire of resilience, an empire born from every tear I once shed. And as my name spread, I realized something. Power is not in wealth. Power is in respect. In the way people look at you, no longer as a victim, but as a storm they cannot stop. By the time they understood who I had become, it was too late. The boy they betrayed no longer existed. What stood before them was a man forged in fire, a man who had turned his scars into a crown. Success is a strange thing. It doesn't just change your life, it changes the people around you. The same ones who once mocked me, now praised me. The same ones who once slammed doors in my face, now knocked at mine. And the cruelest twist of fate, even the ones who had betrayed me, returned. She came back first, the woman who once held my heart, only to shatter it into pieces. Her eyes carried guilt, her voice trembled with softness, and she whispered words I had once begged to hear. I made a mistake. I still love you. But where was this love when I was hungry? Where was this love when I cried alone in the dark? Where was this love when she chose someone else over me? Then came the friends. The same friends who once laughed when I failed. The same friends who turned their backs when I was down. Now they came smiling, with hands stretched out, not in friendship, but in greed. Brother, we always believed in you, they said. But I remembered their laughter. I remembered their silence. I remembered everything. And inside me, a war began. Part of me wanted to forgive, to show that I had risen above the pain, to let go. But the other part of me, the wounded part, the scarred part, it wanted to watch them drown in their regret. It wanted them to feel the coldness I once felt when they abandoned me. So I didn't shout. I didn't curse. I didn't expose their lies. I simply smiled. Because forgiveness is not always about letting people back into your life. Sometimes forgiveness is about letting them see that you no longer need them. I let them speak. I let them beg. I let them try. But my silence said what my heart had already decided. The doors they once closed on me would never open again. And in that moment, I realized the sweetest form of revenge is not revenge at all. It is living so well that your betrayers have no choice but to regret losing you. There comes a time when silence is no longer enough, when you must look your betrayers in the eye, not with anger, but with power. I called them, one by one. The woman who left me, the friends who mocked me, the people who thought I would never rise. This time, I wasn't the broken boy they once abandoned. I was the man they could no longer ignore. They came with nervous smiles, with excuses, with false laughter. But I didn't need their explanations. I didn't need their apologies. I didn't even need their love. I needed them to see that the man standing before them was not the same man they betrayed. I looked her in the eye, the woman who once shattered my heart. You chose someone else when I had nothing, I said. Now you want me back because I have everything. But let me make one thing clear. Love built on betrayal is not love at all. Her tears fell, but I did not flinch because my pain had already taught me enough. Then came the friends. I handed them the same silence they once gave me. And when they begged for favors, I said only this. I don't hold grudges, but I don't forget either. And I will never give you the loyalty that you refused to give me. Their faces froze. The taste of regret was bitter on their tongues. And that was the justice I wanted them to feel. I did not shout. I did not curse. I did not seek revenge. Because true revenge is not about destroying others. It is about building yourself so high that those who betrayed you can only look up and regret losing you. So I left them behind, with their guilt, with their emptiness, with the memories of what they threw away. And I walked forward, not with revenge in my heart, but with peace in my soul. Because my life was no longer about proving them wrong. It was about proving myself right. I often look back at the boy I once was, the boy who went to bed hungry, who cried alone in the dark, who trusted too much, and lost everything. It feels like a lifetime ago. And in many ways, it was. I didn't just rise from poverty. I didn't just gain money, status, or power. I became stronger than I ever imagined. I became rich in lessons, rich in strength, rich in resilience. Every betrayal taught me who not to trust. Every loss taught me how to fight. Every tear taught me that weakness is temporary, but determination is forever. And every success Every small victory reminded me of how far I had come. I want you to hear this not as a story of luck, but as a story of choice. You can be knocked down, betrayed, abandoned. You can be poor, forgotten, and ignored. But no one can take away your will to rise. Because the wealth that matters most is not in your bank account. It's in your heart, in your courage, in your refusal to be broken. I am no longer the boy they pitied. I am no longer the man who begged for love, for approval, for mercy. I am whole, I am free, I am unstoppable. And so, my journey ends where it began. Not in poverty, not in pain, but in triumph. I didn't just become rich in money, I became rich in life. And if you take one thing from my story, let it be this. They can take everything from you, but they can never take the fire you carry within.